So I want to bring up the topic of the wall. President Trump wants to build a wall. He's getting opposition from the left about it. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on on the building of the wall?
Well, borders, they work. They've worked in in Israel, building the border wall in Africa, when Egyptians were trying to cross the border, and now they're trying to prevent Palestinians from crossing over. So I mean, they work. And they've worked for us, and I'm sure it's going to work.
It's interesting that you're talking about the the building of the wall in Israel. The United States, our Congress has approved monies to be sent to a number of other countries. We sent, I believe it was about $10 million that we gave to Jordan to build a wall between them and Syria. So here we are, sending money to other countries and saying build a wall, and yet we're basically disapproving of the wall being built between Mexico and the United States. I mean, even to the point that Nancy Pelosi comes out and says that it is it's immoral. What do you think? What does the Bible say about walls?
Walls are good. Walls are needed. The walls are needed to keep nations secure.
Well, God established in Genesis chapter 10. He established this, the table of 70 nations, and obviously it was a reaction and a response that the Lord made against the Tower of Babel, and essentially the attempt of humanity to try to create a one world government, and God disapproved of that, and basically He established these 70 nations. So I mean, if you have 70 nations, there has to be some type of boundary between the nations for that to work. The elimination of boundaries, or the elimination of any kind of borders, or for that matter walls, would then basically be something that's in opposition to the establishment that God made of 70 nations.
I believe it leads to more lawlessness as well. You have more law, especially in our southern border, which is porous. You have these Mexican cartels, you have jihadis that are down there, you have all these things that are happening down there, and this leads to more lawlessness.
Gangs, drugs, and terrorists coming in through the southern border, just pouring through.
And it's just to reiterate what he said there, criminals are lawless. They don't care about with any type of control. They only care about the business that they're carrying out.
Yeah.
Whether it's drugs or human trafficking, etc. And that's what the president is trying to combat. And we as believers, I believe we should stand with that.
Supporting him on that. I look at Nehemiah. Nehemiah built the wall around Jerusalem, and the wall wasn't to keep people in. Essentially, it was to keep their enemies out. And in the book of Nehemiah, you have the enemy Sanballat, Geshem, and they are essentially they're the implants of Assyria in in that area of Israel, and they're coming against Nehemiah as he's building. Essentially, they were the Samaritans that were opposed to what Nehemiah was doing, and but God appointed him to be a wall builder. Now, in light of building a wall, in light of there being boundaries and separation between the nations, the scriptures teach us that we are to be compassionate towards the poor. We're to be compassionate towards the refugees. There's a number of places. I just wanted to cite in Exodus chapter 22, 21, Moses, in the giving of God's law, he said, "You shall not wrong or oppress a resident alien, for you are aliens in your own land." And what he's saying is that people obviously coming in are people that we should receive. So there has to be some type of a balance. We should be showing compassion to people who are refugees, and I think we see a lot of people coming in right now. We have people in our own church who are refugees from Venezuela with the havoc that's happening down there, and these poor people, they've lost their jobs, they've lost their homes, and their money has basically become worthless with the increased inflation that's going on. I heard somebody say that a loaf of bread that costs $3 it'll cost you $3,000 right now, and it's really sad, to see what's happening there. But
right,
essentially, what do we do? So what should our response be towards people coming into the United States from other countries who are genuine refugees?
Oh, absolutely. I think we should welcome them, as long as they are going to assimilate to our culture, and I think that's what's most important. My family came from Cuba, and fleeing the Castro regime, the Batista regime, And they came into this country, and they knew that if they were coming to this country, they would renounce the culture that they lived in Cuba and assimilate to the culture in this country. And they've embraced it. They loved it, and they love this country.
Yeah, it's a great thought, and my family who came here from Italy years ago, obviously
Right.
we were integrated into the culture in America, and we adopted, obviously we became believers in the values of America, the Constitution of the United States, and our freedoms and our laws. What we do see in the immigration, and you look at the immigration that's happened in Europe and happening here in the United States, just amongst a lot of Muslim communities,
Right.
how essentially they are very isolated, and even to the point that some of them have continued to reject the laws of the United States and adopt Sharia law.
It's even here in the United States. I think it's one part of Detroit. It's populated with Muslims, and they're isolated.
Yeah.
And they don't want to assimilate to the American culture.
Yeah, immigration in the United States, through the years, obviously we're a nation of immigrants, and it's a beautiful thing to see people coming from all over, to come, here from all over the world.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
again, that's something that I was raised with great appreciation. My family came from Italy, and it's the land of opportunity, and we were given great opportunity to become successful and to build lives, own homes, and have a piece of the American dream. But they did it legally.
Right.
And I think that's the issue. When I think the left and their continuous attack against President Trump and anybody who stands with him, that we are anti-immigration. That's such a lie, and it's such a deception that we're very open to immigration, but we're open to legal immigration, because if you eliminate legal immigration and you let everybody come into the country, again, you don't have a country anymore. It's the end of America, and sometimes I think that is again part of the plan, and a plan that goes higher than just simply what the leftists are saying. It goes, really what Satan wants to do is destroy the United States of America and destroy nations. His goal is to create a one world government. If you look at the scriptures and what it tells us in the book of the Revelation, chapter 13, and it's a one world government, it's a one world religion, and it's one man, Satan's man, the Antichrist, who's controlling all of this, and a nation of laws, a nation that is essentially independent. That goes for the United States and other nations in the world. Stands in opposition and essentially is kind of a roadblock to what Satan wants to accomplish. Therefore, he has to destroy nationalism.
We see this push not only in the United States, we saw it in Europe before, because you see the European Union, they were nations. They had France, Germany, all different nations, and they all came together and they all became a European Union. Though there's some that want to break out of it and Brexit, but they still wanted that. They had a whole thing where the United States was part of the North American bloc, and I think Europe had their bloc, and they had, I think, 10 blocks. I think they had, if I'm not mistaken, it was 10 blocks that they had called out, and there was going to be a leader in each block. Almost exactly what the Book of Revelations speaks.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they want to do, and you see that Trump, when it has come against that, he's brought nationalism. He's come against that. And you see a ferocious attack on him, right?
Yeah, well, nationalism is basically now being equated again by the left as racism.
It's racism.
And and obviously, hey, I think I am one of the most open human beings. I pastor a church of 70 different nationalities, and we welcome all people. And I am a major advocate of nationalism. I believe in nationalism, again, from a biblical standpoint of what God has established, and in light of what I really believe Satan wants to establish, at a future time. So it's just interesting that they'll call you a racist if you believe in our independence as a nation, and believing in our laws and our Constitution, and again welcoming welcoming legal immigrants from around the world, and again that's a beautiful thing, but legally. And not the very destruction of a nation by simply tearing down its borders and creating just a global this idea of a global community.
Right.
Woe to you who call evil good and good evil. Woe to you who call that, and it's law. Everything, that's all lawlessness. If you see what I'm not just calling her out, she's one, but you see everybody else what they're doing, it's lawlessness. exactly what it spoke of in Matthew 24. That's what we're going to see.
Yeah, an increase
of lawlessness.
Yeah,
The cult, they're saying that because we want to protect our borders, we want to protect the people inside our borders, we want to protect the people within our borders, that we're being evil. How is that evil?
Yeah.
What do you call that? How is, that's what we're supposed to do. That's what a nation does.
Right.
It has an army to protect it from outward. Inwardly, they have their cops. They have civil authorities. But we're protecting. We're not here saying you can't come in because we hate you.
Right.
We're saying, hey, we want to protect our people. We want to watch out for murderers, rapists, whoever would come in, drugs. We're trying to protect our people, and how is that? That's lawless. If you want to
think of it, they they're against the wall. They're against borders. They're against obviously legal immigration, and then they're against ISIS and us actually policing our nation. So
ICE.
we see there's ICE. ICE. Boy, that was
We are against ISIS, though.
yes. I'm sorry about that. ISIS. Yeah, it's just they're in opposition to the very things that are things that are sanctioned by God, and it is again, it's an affront to God, and I believe it's an affront to what is established in His Word. So I'm in favor. I think we agree that we're in favor of a wall. And we're in favor of immigration as long as it's legal immigration, and again, we should be reaching out to the true refugees and being a place and a haven where they can come as our families came to the United States.
Absolutely.
Amen.